Shalom to the nation of Israel. This is Barzal coming in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and to the hopeful light pushing his word and truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. This is just a to another video, right? Because you got I said to a because Apostle, actually I think Apostle Gabar. I'm not sure if he did a No, so Apostle Gabar did a video and then Apostle Tar did a response to his video. So I'm just doing a right, to both of their videos. But it's about the dreadlocks, right? Because this is the title that Apostle Tahar used for the lesson that he did. It's called If Any Man or Woman in Israel rock dreadlocks, they will burn in a lake of fire, right? Which is 100% true because he explains it in the video. If you actually watch the video, there was a gentleman that was talking to me or responding or in the comments, right? And he seemed sincere, but he said that I'm not sure if he watched this video that Apostle Tahar made or he saw the title, but he said he saw the video that Apostle Tahar made and that really pretty much turned him off because of the title. Which, I mean, to be completely honest, you got offended by the word, right? And the scriptures talk about men being offended by the word because he's speaking the truth. And I'm not sure if the gentleman watched the video, but if you watch the video, Apostle Tar explains why he said that, why he used that title. Which, yeah, it's an extreme title, but he used the title to get attention, and which it did. You go in the comment board, a lot of people responded to that video that he did, right? Right, and then he mentioned another comment saying that the KJV, he doesn't follow the KJV he doesn't follow GMS because we use the KJV and that was written by white Anglo-Saxons. And then you are right, you're 100% correct. It was written by white Anglo-Saxons, but you don't understand that the white Anglo-Saxons were us, or so-called white. You don't understand history. You don't understand that we migrated through the Syrian captivity in 78. It was not 70 AD. The Syrian captivity, right? I don't remember the exact time. I have to go back into that. But the Syrian captivity, when the Syrians came, we got captive by them. Israel scattered. Israelites went up to, they went with the Assyrians to their land. Some went into the Asia. Some went into the Caucasus Mountains. Some went into Scandinavia. Some went into Rome. We went everywhere. Some of us went to France, right, during that time. So if you don't understand the history, you don't understand the mystery. So when you make a comment like that, it's just a comment of ignorance, right? I don't take it personally because I understand the truth, but the gentleman took those two things and said, "Oh, I don't want to deal with GMS," right? Now, if you watch more videos, right? If you were actually watching, I don't know if he's watching. Like I said, I don't know about this gentleman, right? I don't know if he's watching different camps, right? Maybe he's watching IUIC, he's watching ISUPK, he's watching HODC, watching GMS, and he's picking and choosing like a window shopper. So he's picking things from there, picking things from there. I don't know, right? All I know is that that's what the person said in the comments, and I'm like, look, if you actually been watching GMS videos, you wouldn't have made that comment because you would understand the history of who the Anglo-Saxons are, who the Danes are, right? Those are us. The Israelites those are us. Our names changed over time. And you want to talk about the name Danes, that really comes from Dan or Don. It comes to the tribe of Dan. It's actually pronounced Don, not Dan. It's pronounced Don. So over time, the Donites or Danites, their names changed into the Dons or Danes. That's where that came from, right? And the Danes were Vikings. That's why if you even watch the show Vikings, you know the what's it called? I'm going on a slight different direction, but it's still important to what we're talking about. In Vikings, you watch the show Vikings, you see when the Vikings come, right, and they're in England, right? They're like, oh, the Danes are coming. Yeah, because they're Danes, they're Danites. Remember Dan? There's a whole thing about what happened with the tribe of Dan, right? That's another mystery. But if you don't understand the history, that's why the apostles of GMS always say, if you understand the mystery, you understand the history. Or sorry, slack it. If you understand the history, you understand the mystery, right? So you have to understand history to connect the dots, right? That's why they referred to him in that show, which is just historical information. They referred to him as Danes, which are Dans or Dons, because our people were the Vikings, right? how they portray them in the show is that they're white. They're so-called white. They weren't so-called white. They were so-called black originally, right? And over time, for sure, there was white people that mixed into there, right? Because, you know, in the area that they're in, right? So back to what I was saying, yeah. So the Anglo-Saxon, everything like that, this gentleman obviously doesn't understand history, hence why he made that comment. So it was an ignorant comment. So, you know, for that person, if you watch this video that I'm making, you should watch more GMS videos, right? Like I said, I made a comment to that individual. Like, you should type in. I gave him Apostle Tahar's YouTube channel, this one, right? But like I said, the comment he made, he said because of the title. I'm not sure if you watched this video, the one that Apostle Tahar made. I don't know if it's just the title that threw him off, or he watched the video. If you watched the video and you didn't get it, then you're just not one of the elect, right? If you watched Apostle Tahar's video, that the one I'm watching right now, and that turned you off from the truth, from GMS, then you're just not one of the elect. If it was just a title, then I encourage you to watch the video, right? I encourage you to watch the video, and don't get emotional, because if you got emotional based off the title, you're being very emotional, and that was a rash decision. You should watch the video, listen to what he's saying, and then you understand why he made that comment or why he titled the video like that, right? You can't move with emotions in the truth. And that goes into another scripture. The scriptures talk about, have I become your enemy, now that I give you the truth? Roughly paraphrasing, right? So a lot of times when people hear the truth, they get defensive, they get emotional, right? Because they're too focused on how they feel about what you're saying, because their body's going to react. Because the flesh, remember, the flesh is fighting against you, right? The flesh is fighting against you. So it's going to make you react or make you feel negative or bad about something that is good. Because remember, Esau has turned everything backwards. Isaiah 5:20. You turn the bitter to sweet and sweet the bitter. How do you do that? So through psychology, right? He's wicked. So that's why he's so into the minds and the brain. And that's on a carnal level. On a spiritual level, this happens spiritually, right? But then and manifested physically, how did it manifest with the wicked? The wicked, what did the wicked do? Who are the so-called white people, right? What they do? That's why they're very into psychology, right? MK Ultra, all that type of fucking shit, right? So now, your flesh, on the spiritual level and on a carnal level, it takes good things as bad. So you get a bad reaction. It feels bad. Oh, I don't want to listen to this, right? When actually it's good for you, right? It's just like working out in the gym. And I mentioned this so many times in my videos. You work out in the gym, right? You lift weights. At first it hurts. But if you just ran away from that pain, you would never get stronger, right? You never get that thing that's good for you. That's true for you. That's, right? If everyone just ran away from pain in the gym, there would be no one would get in shape. But because you deal with it, you recover, then you get strong, you come back, you get results. It's the same shit. But when it comes to something people can't see per se, right? Physically, they're way more they're more reluctant to stay in that type of pain and that type of bad feeling, right? So I'll say it again, right? You know, when what was I saying? Okay, yeah, you have to understand the history to understand the mystery, pretty much, right? So that gentleman made that comment about you know, the KJV, and it was written by Anglo-Saxons, and then the dread, you obviously don't understand history, and you obviously haven't been watching enough GMS videos. You've been watching, maybe, I don't know, right? I don't know. I'm just making a speculation, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but like I said before, I encourage you, if you haven't watched the video, to watch it. If you have watched it and you're like, oh, that's not for me, I'm not with that, okay, then cool. You know, it is what it is. So back to the point of this video. So it says dreadlocks. So I was watching this video, and I just kind of, because he mentioned, I should say, Apostle Gabar was talking about he went into the history quite briefly about where the dreadlocks came from, because a lot of people have dreadlocks. A lot of people have dreadlocks, and you know, dreadlocks are out of order. They're ways of the heathen, right? And if you're getting emotional, this goes to anybody, if you get emotional by the fact that Apostle Tahar, or any about the apostles, or any GMS member, right, tells you this for this specific topic, right, tells you to cut your fucking hair off. If you don't cut your hair off, you're gonna burn in a lake of fire. Then you're not one of the elect, right? If you can't sit and listen to the truth of what they're saying when they bring back the historical information of where dreadlocks came from, and you're getting emotional, you're not one of the elect. You're not, right? And to further add, whether who's watched Apostle Tahar's video, Apostle Gabar's video, Samson didn't have dreadlocks, right? Because dreadlocks is a way of the heathens, and he explains it. I'm gonna go play the video, right? It's a way of the Elamites, right? The ways of the followers of Shiva had dreadlocks, right? So you're actually following the way. You're actually a follower of Shiva when you have dreadlocks, not Rastafarian bullshit, okay? And the Rastafarian, that dreadlocks came from the Indians, because you remember the Indians were mingled amongst our people, and they brought that shit with was it Selassie, whatever the guy's name is. That, remember that guy? He claims to be Ethiopian, but he's actually an Indian, and people don't know that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that he's an Indian, right? Anyways, right? So Samson never had dreadlocks. Remember, because Samson wouldn't follow the ways of the heathen, and I just explained to you that's the way of the heathen. If you watch the video on top of it, it'll explain that it's the way of the heathens, right? And it's gonna show it. I'm gonna show that, right? So Samson was a Nazarite, so he was with the Nazarite vow is a special vow. It makes you even closer to Yahweh Bashir Shai. So if Samson was close to Yahweh Bashir Shai, why would he take on a heathen custom? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be pretty much a warrior of Yahweh Bashir Shai, but I'm gonna take on a heathen custom. I'm gonna take on a custom of the heathens and get dreadlocks. That doesn't make no fucking sense. Get braids. He had braids. He didn't have dreadlocks. Okay? And it even says he had 7 braids. Right? Braids are very nightly, like Apostle Tara explains it even more. They're very nice and clean. Dreadlocks are not clean. They're dirty. Right? Your hair gets dirty. You can't wash your hair. It's dirty. It's a dirty custom. Hence why it's a custom of the heathens. That's why dreadlocks, you can't wash your hair. You have to go through these special procedures to wash your hair. Right? Anyways, let's play the video. So that's the history. That's where that whole dreadlocks thing is. Shiva, like he said, Shiva has the dreadlocks to protect the Ganges River from flooding the people, pretty much. Which, first of all, if you know about the Ganges River, that's one of the most disgusting rivers. Do you know what they do in there? They piss in there. They shit in there. They do. It's abominable. It's filthy. But then the whole history, or I should say, the religion of that is that Shiva soaks up the Ganges River with his dreadlocks. So all that filthiness, disgusting filthiness, is in dreadlocks, in her dreadlock or his dreadlocks. You would think it would be a woman, but it's actually a man, right? In his dreadlocks. Hence why dreadlocks are disgusting. You can't wash your hair. You guys gotta look at things spiritually and see how it manifests physically. That's why dreadlocks are dirty. That's why you can't wash your hair with dreadlocks. That's why people lose their hair. Their hair falls out when you have dreadlocks. And people might say, "Oh, it's because they didn't twist it on time and they didn't keep it clean." You can't really keep dreadlocks clean. Remember, you're not washing your hair. You can't really wash your hair and keep dreadlocks, right? If they wash your hair, they have to take out the dreadlocks pretty much, and then retwist it and all that fucking shit. Braids is not like that. You take out your braids, you wash your hair, that's it. It's done. You don't have to go through some special procedure. And the thing with the dreadlocks, right? People might say, "Oh, well, you can't wash your dreadlocks because you got the dry shampoo." Dry shampoo wasn't a thing back then. During the times of these ancient, they didn't have dry shampoo. So how did they wash their hair? They didn't. Right? That's the point. You're not taking it in. They didn't wash their hair. That's why dreadlocks is a dirty, filthy custom. Yeah, Esau has made some technology where, okay, now you got a dry shampoo. That's not a normal thing. And we're going back. The things that are true, right? The things that are true and the things that are right, there's no. It's just very clear, right? If dreadlocks, you can say, if you want to say it like this, if dreadlocks was a thing of the Most High, you'd be able to wash your hair and have dreadlocks. You'd be able to keep your dreadlocks and it would just stay the same, right? It wouldn't be a dirty practice, right? If you take out the things out of Esau when it comes to taking care of dreadlocks, because I know people like to say that, right? That's why I'm talking about this. People like to say, "Oh, you got dry shampoo." If you take out those inventions, Try having dreadlocks for 3 months, right? Or for however long the process. I don't have dreadlocks. For however long the process is to have dreadlocks, where you need to go get a wash. Try doing that for that period of time and beyond, and see what happens to your hair. Right? See what happens to your hair. Try to keep your dreadlocks, right? Try to do that. You can, right? Because it's dirty, right? And regardless, you have to wash your hair, right? But with braids, I can take out my braids. I can take out my braids and I can rebraid them. I can wash my hair and rebraid them, and the braids are perfectly fine. With dreadlocks, if you take out your dreadlocks, which one, that's a long process. Two, you lose a lot of hair, because a lot of the hair is not even really the hair that's attached to the scalp. A lot of it's dead hair. So that's another reason for why it's a filthy practice. But like I said, I can keep talking all day. But like this, for this example, the Ganges River. If you know what the Ganges River is, look it up. Look up what they do in the Ganges River. And this is the religion and mysticism of what the whole history of dreadlocks came from. It's a filthy practice. It's dirty. But if you want to do that, fine. You want to follow the way of the Elamites? Go ahead. Right? Because that Rastafarian stuff came from this. That's why you have to understand the history. But like I said, you have to understand, and not what I said. This is what Apostle Tahar and the apostles and the elders always say. You have to understand the history to understand the mystery. Right? So once again, I'm going to say it again. Samson didn't have dreadlocks. That's the most ludicrous and absurd fucking statement to make. Right? He did not have dreadlocks. He had braids. Because Samson was a Nazarite. If you don't know it, and a lot of people don't even know that. Right? They don't even understand why he had long hair. They're just like, oh, Samson had long hair. Samson was a Nazarite. And go look that up. And we're gonna go into that actually. Right? He was a Nazarite, which is a special vow to the Most High. He was a Nazarite from the womb. Right? It's a special vow. And that's why Samson's story was like that, because he was very close with Yahweh Shai. I'm not saying the other apostles and prophets weren't, but Samson was very close because of that vow that he had. That he was a Nazarite from the womb, pretty much, right? Okay, so let's play this. Yeah, you have to laugh. Ganges River is disgusting. You're gonna stop a flood with that? Yeah, right. And who he's talking about, High Chief Priest Ahlazar. I forgot to mention Sakari, right? He's the leader of the Sakari, right? The other Hebrew Israelite group, right? And he's going to that. He used to be part of GMS, and then they were, like he's saying, they went back and forth, and that man has long hair, right? But he claims he's under the vow of the Nazarite. So I'm gonna go and explain why he's not under the vow of the Nazarite. Right, and also why he didn't actually partake in the Passover at the same time too, right? Well, and on top of it, right, just to add to what Apostle Tara is saying, the Nazarite vow, like I said, that's the vow that Samson was under, and I'm going to explain it. I'm going to back up everything I'm saying, right? I said everything I'm saying, I'm going to back it up with the scriptures, right? So, the vow that Samson was under, right, it says you're supposed to grow out the locks of your hair. So, locks doesn't necessarily mean grow out your braids. Yes, you're supposed to grow out braids, of course, but it's really grow out your hair. If you wanted to put into braids, then put into braids. Then you just grow out your braids or locks, right? That's another way of saying locks, like locks of your hair, but not dreadlocks. Dreadlocks is something different. Hence why the word dread is there. And let's see, you know what? Let's just real quickly. Let's pull up that word dread. So you guys can get a better understanding of words. Right? Because locks goes into hair. Doesn't necessarily mean you can have braids, you can have locks of your hair. It's interchangeable, right? But dread is a different word, right? So dreadlocks is a compound word. So let's go to the word dread. It says to fear very much, be in shrinking apprehension of expectation of, contraction, counsel or advise against. Also to dread, fear, be afraid, against. So against. So dread's going, it keeps mentioning against. To reason, count, dreading, great fear. It mentions against and fear. And then so it mentions, and let's see what it says for dreadlocks. It says rope-like strands of hair formed by matting or braiding, right? So yeah, they have to be formed, right? Dread, African warriors, blah blah blah. But Rastafarian dread, fear of the Lord, also the sense of fear of the Lord. It's not really much on that, but right, it says dread. So the word dread pretty much goes into fear or against, right? So against, if you read it like dreadlocks, right? It's against what, right? Against what, right? It's against what? You have to look at it, and you got to use your spiritual eye. It's against what? Who's it against? It's against Yahweh Shai. Well, Yahweh Shai doesn't tell the Israelites to have dreadlocks, right? He doesn't tell the Israelites to have dreadlocks. He doesn't tell them that there's a certain way you have to have your hair, right? Men aren't supposed to have men are not supposed to have long hair, but there is a situation where you can grow your hair, and it's not just for men; it's for women too. If they are under the vow of the Nazarite, well, women are already going to have long hair as it is, right? But if you're under the vow of the Nazarite, you can't cut your hair. Period. Right? You can't cut it because that's a representation of your servitude to Yahweh Shem Shai, right? Right. So dread goes the word against and fear. That's not a good word. So even if you just use that, the word dread is not a good word. It's a bad word, right? It's a negative word. So you're wearing a hairstyle that has negative connotations to it. Even just the word alone is negative, right? So dreadlocks is a negative thing, right? It's a fearful thing. It's against something, right? Against who? Against Yahweh Shem Shai, because he never told you to have dreadlocks, right? And if he said that, it would say that in the scriptures. It doesn't say dreadlocks. It doesn't say dreadlocks. It just says locks. Those are two different things. Right? But people look at the word locks and associate, oh, that means dreadlocks. No. Right? Another example of that is Goldilocks. Do you know the story about Goldilocks? Goldilocks. This isn't Goldilocks. It was Goldilocks. Her name is Goldilocks. Because of the locks of her hair. But she didn't have braids. She just had locks. And go based on my understanding, right? She didn't have braids. Or sorry, she didn't have dreads. That's the word I'm looking for. She didn't have dreads, right? She might have had braids. I don't really know the story too well. It's the old story when you were a kid, but I know she didn't have dreads. But her name is Goldilocks. Why is her name Goldilocks? Because of her hair. I'm assuming that the locks of her hair were long, right? That's what it means when it says locks. But people are just too. They try to look for things and try to make it fit for what they want it to fit, right? If you look at things objectively, then you can see the truth. But if you look at things subjectively, you're going to see what you want to see. Right? You got to be subjective. You got to be objective, Slakia. You got to be objective in this truth. And that's why you can't be emotional. Some people, especially men, some men have dreadlocks, and then when this videos like this come out, they get emotional. well, he's saying I can't have dreadlocks. Oh, he's saying I'm gonna burn because I don't have dreadlocks. Well, F you. It's like, okay, you got offended by the word. Because if you truly in your spirit are trying to be a true servant of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, you're going to be open to the idea of what you could be going off, because you're not perfect. None of us are perfect. So that means, for none of us are perfect, if you understand that, then you understand that you could be making a mistake. So you got to think about that. So you have to be open to that idea that you're making a mistake. Now, if someone says something, even if it might be something that you don't like, look at what they're saying. Not look at who's saying it and how they're saying it. Just look at what they're saying. And then go research it yourself. That's why in the GMS, the apostles, especially, I should say first and foremost, always tell you to look everything up that they say. Look it up. Look up what they're saying. Just don't take what they're saying and run with it. Look up what they're saying. Find out for yourself. Right? Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. They already know the truth. They already know. That's why they don't have dreadlocks. Right? But you might not know that. Maybe you have dreadlocks. You're like, I don't know. Look it up. Don't get emotional. Look up what they're saying. If you look it up, right, they show you the information to look up. Go do the search for yourself. If you look at it, you can come to the same conclusion, then you know the truth. Now the question is, now you know the truth. What are you going to do about this truth? Are you going to receive it, or are you going to deny it? Right? Because some people say that they actually look it up and find the truth and be like, I don't care. You know what? They'll try to rationalize, right? They'll be in a irrational state and try to rationalize their irrationalities. I'm not sure if that's even a word, right? Which is confusion. The scriptures say a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, right? So we're gonna keep playing, and I'm gonna bring the scriptures. Don't worry. Okay, so he just said that high priest, or so-called high priest Ahlazar of the Sicarii, because he claims he's under the vow of the Nazarite, and Apostle Tahar asked him, like he just said, what are you going to do in the Passover? Because the Passover, you have to partake, you got to drink wine. Which wine is from grapes, right? Right, and in the Nazarite vow, which I'm going to pull up right now, says you can't have any grapes. So, so-called high priest Ahlazar of the Sicarii, right, says, well, I'll just have honey wine. Which he's still going off. And the reason why I say he's still going off, because you can't have any alcohol when you're under the vow of the Nazarite. You can't have any alcohol, period. Right? So that guy, High Priest Ahlazar of not the IUIC, of Sicarii, he's going off. He's not a Nazarite. He's not a Nazarite, and he hasn't been partaking of the Passover since he decided to take that Nazarite vow. Or decided to say he's taking a Nazarite vow, right? Because he's not even taking care. He's not taking the vow because he already broke it when he had the honey wine. And two, he hasn't been partaking in the Passover because he's not drinking the wine from the grape. So he's a 2-time loser, and I'm gonna prove it. I'm going to prove it. So, Numbers 6:1, right? The law of the Nazarite. So it says, and I read in an NLT, because I guess some people don't want to read, they don't want to hear the KJV for some strange reason. Like I said, to that specific gentleman, you got to do your research, my friend. Right? Just do your research. Or, right, there's men that have made videos on go into the history of the Anglo-Saxons, the Danes, right? They go into that. But I'll read an NLT because the spirit, we are in the spirit of reading an NLT right now. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with the KJV. It's just that NLT is just using more present day language, so to speak. All right. So it says, then the Lord, Yahweh Shai, said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. If any of the people, either men or women, take the special vow of the Nazarite, setting themselves apart to the Lord in a special way. Right? So it's a special vow. It's very serious. It's not a joke. That's why Yahweh Shai jacked up Samson the way he did with him. Right? Because he already knew not to do those things. He already knew. So that's why Yahweh Shai didn't waste any time to jack him up. He didn't waste any time. Verse 3, it says, they must give up wine and other alcoholic drinks. Oh, wait, hold up. Hold up. Time out. Let me read that again. It says, so this is, read it. It's a special vow, right? It's a special vow. It says they must give up wine and other alcoholic drinks. So they must give up wine. Now read in the KJV. It says, verse 3, it says, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drinks. So that means any wine. Doesn't matter if it's honey wine, watermelon wine, grape wine. Doesn't matter. Wine and any alcoholic drink. The reason why I mentioned alcoholic drink on top of it is because you got like liquors, which were stronger. You got wine's not as strong as liquors, right? Hence why I mentioned alcoholic drinks. But that covers everything. So anything of alcoholic, any type of alcoholic drink that's considered alcoholic drink, you can't have it. If you have it, you've broken the vow. So you're not a Nazarite anymore. And part of breaking when you break the vow, you have to cut your hair off. So-called High Priest Ahlazar hasn't cut his hair off. Why is his hair still long? Right? But he believes he's still under the vow. He's not under the vow. Right? And the thing is, that's why I say this guy's a false prophet, because he went out of his way to go look in the scriptures to see, okay, where's the loophole where I can keep drinking alcohol or wine and still be partaking in the Passover. Oh, okay, I got it. Let me have honey wine because it's not grapes, and then I can still partake in the Passover. Which, when the Passover, you're supposed to be having wine of the grape, right? So, like Apostle Tahar said that they already got on him about this, but I'm going to get on him now, right? I'm going to get on him because he's out of order. And that's why that guy's waxing worse and worse, right? He's talking about doing music videos and going on all this fucking it's just like stuff he's doing has nothing to do with the truth, right? And he's putting a negative light on the truth on Hebrew Israelites. Him, Sakari, IUIC. IUIC is worse, but Sakari's gonna get up there because they're following that. They did it. Apparently, so-called High Priest Ahlazar doesn't have a problem with Nate. So if you don't have a problem with Nate, that means you don't have a problem with how Nate is, who he is, and what he's pushing. So you're eventually going to get worse, just as bad as him. And this is like a cancer. It spreads. Like a virus. Like a disease. It spreads. That disease of pride, arrogancy, and haughtiness. It spreads. That leaven spreads. And you can see it. Watch. We're talking about IUIC. Just watch. You're going to see Sakari is going to get even worse. We're going to be talking about them very soon. Even more. Right? So back to the point. Right? You can't have alcoholic drinks. So let's go back to what Apostle Tahar said when they confronted that individual about it. Let's rewind it a little bit. Right? So, yeah, exactly. He says, which is not grapes. You have to drink wine from grapes to partake in the Passover, not honey wine. So one, he didn't partake in the Passover. Two, he already broke the vow of the Nazarite, so he's not a Nazarite. And also, well, the scriptures say about what happens when you don't partake in the Passover, right? You can go read that for yourself, but you get cut off from Israel. So it's very serious. So he's taking this as a joke. So he doesn't actually truly believe. Hence why he tried to look for a loophole of, oh, well, I can have honey wine, right? That's fucking wicked. And Yahweh Shai is going to jack you up. Now, hopefully you could still repent, but the hope I should say is that you do repent. Whether you do or don't, I don't really know. We don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm doing this video to explain and show people that might be following that individual that he's going off. Right? If you're following what he's doing with the whole long hair thing because, okay, I'm under the vow of Nazarite, but I can drink honey wine, you can't. Because I just showed it to you. It's self-explanatory. It's clear as day that you can't do that. I'll read it again. I'll read in NLT. Numbers 6 and 1. It says, the Lord Yahweh Shai said to Moses, giving the following instruction to the people of Israel, if any of the people, either men or women, take the special vow of a Nazarite, setting themselves apart to the Lord Yahweh Shai in a special way. So this is a special vow. So you're over here fucking around with a special vow that is for Yahweh Shai and not taking it seriously, thinking it's a joke. What do you not read the story of Samson, how he jacked him up. Samson got jacked up. Quick, too. Because he knew exactly where he went off. Samson already knew. right? Samson knew that he fucked up. And that's because of that fucking woman, right? That's Samson's fault. So verse 3 it says, they must give up wine, right? They must give up wine and other alcoholic drinks. So you can look at this again, right? Someone might be like, okay, well, it just says wine, so that could just be wine from the grape, right? Okay, if I give wine from the grape, I can drink other wine. But then it goes and says other alcoholic drinks. So any type of alcoholic drink you can't have if you're under the vow of the Nazarite. Hence why Paul, if you know the story about Paul cut his hair off because he was under a vow. It says that. It doesn't say it was a vow of the Nazarite, but there's only one vow where you have long hair. That's for Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai. There's only one vow for the Lord where you have long hair, where you're growing out hair, and that's the vow of the Nazarite. But to partake in the vow of the Nazarite, or sorry, to partake in the vow of the Nazarite, you have to grow your hair out and you got to abstain from alcohol, period, right? But to partake in the Passover, which is duty, is law for every Israelite man, you have to drink a wine from the grape. So that's why Paul cut his hair, because he cut himself from the vow. He stopped the vow. He ended the vow by cutting his hair off, and then he went to go partake in the Passover. And I'm going to bring that out too. I'm going to bring out everything I'm saying. So, so-called high priest Ahlazar of Sakari is on notice, right? You're going off. You're going off. One, you didn't partake in the Passover, and two, you're not under the law or the vow of the Nazarite, right? You're going off. You're completely out of order, and now you're gonna be made aware of this. So the question is, what are you gonna do now? Because you can't say that it doesn't say that in the scriptures. You can't say, oh, that's not true. It clearly says it in the scriptures, right? So let's go to the next one. I will come back to that video, but I'm gonna bring up the scriptures because people think it's a fucking joke, right? So it says, verse 4, as long as they are bound... Actually, let me keep reading verse 3, Slakia. It says, they must give up wine and other alcoholic drinks. They must not use vinegar made from wine or from other alcoholic drinks. They must not drink fresh grape juice. And they must not eat grapes or raisins, right? So, right? The focus is grapes and alcoholic drinks. Right? So it's a very serious vow. It says, verse 4, as long as they are bound by the Nazarite vow, they are not allowed to eat or drink anything that comes from a grapevine, not even the grape seeds or skins. They must, so now, that's why you can still have honey, right? Samson was eating honey, right? Remember what happened with the lion? He went into the lion, he took the beehive, right? He got the honey and brought it back to his family. You can still have honey, but you can't have honey wine, right? Because that's an alcoholic drink. That's wine. But you can have honey, but grapes, you can't have grapes, period. Right? This is what I mean. That's why I know that so-called high priest, he went in here, and that's how you know the Yahweh Shai is not dealing with him, because he didn't even see this part. He didn't even see that. He was just looking for a loophole for him to keep his hair long, because like Apostle Tara says, they do it for the galleys, right? It's the look, because girls give him, oh, your hair's so long, he looks, you know what? That's all it is. It's for the trendy thing. It's a trendy thing. He's not doing it for the Most High. He's doing it for himself. He's doing it for women. He's doing it for money. To have that look, that gangster look. Right? So Yahweh B'Shem Shai is going to jack him up if he doesn't repent. Because now you're putting on notes. Because I'm going to make this lesson. I'm going to keep making lessons on this. Because that's fucking wicked. It's fucking wicked. Right? This is a special vow. Right? It's a special vow for the Lord. And you're perverting it. You're perverting a special vow. This is a special vow. And everything of the truth is special. So if it was something else, I would be coming with the same fucking energy. But now, you know, the spirit is on me to get on this fucking guy. What's this called? What's it called? High Priest Ahlazar of the whatever he fucking calls himself, right? And no one can come in and say, "Oh, well, you just don't like the guy. You're just jealous." Well, I'm not jealous. I'm telling you the truth. The Apostle Tahar brought the information. Apostle Gabar brought the information, and I'm bringing more information on him. They're talking about dreadlocks, but I'm zeroing on High Priest Ahlazar, so-called High Priest Ahlazar, because he has long hair, right? That's why I'm zeroing on him, because he's going off, and he's ahead of his group. So you have men that are actually sincere, that are following him, that might be doing the exact same thing he's doing because he's doing it. And they actually believe what he's doing. And you know what? For them, you got to look things up. You're just as guilty because you didn't go and do the research on your own. You just went and believed what this person said. But at the same time, Like the old saying goes, with much power comes much responsibility. So the person who's in higher position has to be responsible for more. You're going to have more blood in your hands because you've been put in a position of leadership and people are under your leadership. So there's more accountability on you. But as a man, as an individual, you have to have accountability for yourself, right? So I'm taking my accountability and responsibility to that I understand this stuff to make a video and a lesson on it. Because if I don't, I sat here with all this information and I didn't use it to help anybody, to turn them back to Yahweh Shem Shai, right? So they can repent. So, yeah, so verse 5, it says, they must never cut their hair throughout the time of their vow, for they are holy and set apart to the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai until the time of their vow has been fulfilled. They must let their hair grow long, right? So Paul's vow was just for the beginning of the end of the Passover to the beginning of the Passover, right? That was the period of his vow. That's why he cut his hair before the Passover, to go partake in the Passover, right? Paul didn't say, well, I can have honey wine, right? I can have honey wine. You think he didn't know about honey wine? So why didn't Paul say that? Right? Why didn't Paul say that? And that's part of the reason why. That's another reason why Yahweh Shem Shai used Paul to go to the Gentiles and tell them, especially about that long hair thing, because he had long hair himself, but he was doing it for the Most High. He already knew that you guys were doing it for vanity. You guys are doing it for yourselves. You guys are doing it because you're following the heathens. Right? There's a reason why Yahweh Shem Shai used Paul for that. Now, I don't know how long his hair was, right? But his hair must have been long enough. He was growing out for a year. It was long enough, right? Because he was under the vow. So Judges 13, right? And this is going to be a long video. So, if this is too long for you, then, I can't really help you with that. I don't know what to tell you. Pause the video and take a break and come back to it. So Judges 13 and 3. Okay. So just to further back up what I'm saying, just read from the NLT. It says, so be careful. You must not drink wine. So let me just give you the context. Let's read from the first, number 1. It says, again, the Israelites did evil in the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai's sight. So the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai handed them over to the Philistines, who oppressed them for 40 years. In those days, a man named Manoah from the tribe of Dan, right? That goes into the Danes. That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other lesson, right? Lived in the town of Zorah. His wife was unable to be pregnant, and they had no children. The angel of the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai appeared to Manoah's wife and said, even though you have been unable, and I'm reading from the NLT, unable to have children, you will soon become pregnant and give birth to a son. So be careful, you must not drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, nor eat any forbidden food. Which you're not supposed to be eating forbidden food, period. But he's just letting her know that. Don't do that, right? You will become pregnant, and this is the reason why. You become pregnant and give birth to a son, and his hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to Yahweh B'Hashem Yashai as a Nazarite from birth. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines. So he'll be made a judge, a Nazarite judge, to even say one, right? So you see the context. So it says, the woman ran and told her husband, a man of Yahweh Hashem Yoshai appeared, which was an angel, right? Appeared to me. He looked like one of Yahweh Hashem Yoshai's angels, terrifying to see. I didn't ask, so he must have had a very strong countenance, right? I didn't ask where he was from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he told me, you will become pregnant and give birth to a son. You must not drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, nor eat any forbidden food, for your son will be dedicated to Yahweh, but Hashem Yoshai as a Nazarite from the moment of his birth until the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yoshai, saying, Lord Yahweh Hashem Yoshai, please let the man of Yahweh, but Hashem Yoshai, come back to us again and give us more instruction about this son who is to be born. Yahweh Hashem Yoshai answered Manoah's prayer, and the angel of Yahweh Hashem Yoshai appeared once again to his wife as she was sitting in the field, but her husband Manoah was not with her. So she quickly ran and told her husband, the man who appeared to me the other day is here again. Manoah ran back with his wife and asked, are you the man who spoke to my wife the other day? Yes, he replied, I am. So Manoah asked him, when your words come true, what kind of rules should govern the boy's life and work? The angel of the Lord Yahweh Yoshai replied, "Be sure your wife follows the instructions I gave her. She must not eat grapes or raisins, drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, or eat any forbidden food." Right? And the reason why he said also, you think the forbidden food would go without saying, but the thing is that the Israel was in captivity, and Israelites were breaking the laws. They were eating forbidden food, right? They're eating forbidden food. That's why he mentioned that, because we have our own dietary laws, but those laws were being broken because of where they were in captivity, which is not an excuse, but the fact of the matter is that they were doing that, right? They were doing that. So she's making it very clear that she makes those instructions are very clear. She can't eat it, because even from the womb, he can't. That boy can't have anything defiled in his body. Anything, not even through the mother, because you know what? When your mother eats the food, the child eats it too. So she can't even eat it while she has him, right? But that instruction goes for her right now while she's pregnant with him, and then for him in general, that boy, right? It says, okay, that's it, right? But you can see this vow is very serious. It's not a joke. So you got guys like High Priest Ahlazar that are taking it as a joke, looking for loopholes. And on top of it, you're so stupid that you can't even see the fact that you're not even under the vow. That's how you know. That's how I know. One, he was just looking for a loophole because he's just doing it for vanity. Two, Yahweh Shai is not dealing with him because Yahweh Shai allowed him to do that, right? And now, three, he's being exposed because I'm gonna expose him, right? I'm gonna expose him because you're out of order, bro. And you're a head. You're the head of your group. You got men that actually believe in Yahweh Shai that are following you, and you're over here spreading this bullshit. And if he's spreading bullshit with that, what else is he spreading bullshit with, right? Like I said, the little leaven with the whole lump. It starts with one small thing, which this is not a small thing, right? This is actually a very serious thing, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So Acts 18 and 18, perfect. So this is what I was talking about with Paul, right? It says Acts 18 and 18. Paul stayed in Corinth. I'll read it from the NLT. Paul stayed in Corinth for some time after that, then said goodbye to the brothers and sisters and went to nearby Kenthria or Kenchria. There he shaved his head according to, it says Jewish custom, but it's not Jewish. According to Israelite custom, making the end of a vow. Which vow was that? Which vow was that? How many vows are there? There's only one fucking vow where you're growing your hair. Okay? This is a process of elimination. I already showed you what it was. Right? Then he set sail for Syria, taking Priscilla and Aquila with him. Right? Now, I think it continues. I'm not sure if it continues in this one. Hold on, Slakia. Okay, yeah. Okay, there we go. I'll read it, and I have to read from the KJV because and I'll tell you, it doesn't actually explain it. NLT, this is where they go off. So, verse 20 in the KJV, it says, when they desired him to tarry longer time with them, he consented not, but bade them farewell. So he said goodbye, saying, I must be all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem. So what feast that requires you to come back to Jerusalem, right? Where Paul had to cut his hair and break his vow. What feast would that be? Now, I already explained to you and I showed you the vow of the Nazarite. So if you put two and two together using the fucking brain, what does that say? Okay, obviously it's the Passover feast, right? Also with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And you to partake in the Passover, Paul had to cut off his hair to end his vow of the Nazarite because he had to drink wine, right? Wine from the grape, right? That's why. Because it says, but I will return again unto you if Yahweh will. And he sailed from Ephesus, right? So let's go to John 11 and 56. John 11:56. I read an NLT. It says, "They kept looking for Yahushua, but as they stood around in the temple, they said to each other, 'What do you think? He won't come for Passover, will he?'" It says, Slakia, give me 1 second. Oh, I need to read from 55. That's why it seems like there's no context. There we go. So I read from the KJV and NLT. It says John 11:55. It says, and the Jews, right, or the Israelites, Passover was nigh at hand, and many went out of the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover. So I just read to you what Paul was doing. He was going to Jerusalem, right, and before he went to Jerusalem, he cut his hair, right, for a feast that was in Jerusalem, right, and a Passover feast requires all the Israelite men to come to Jerusalem, right? So it says, and the Israelites Passover. I just say Israelites because Jews is just that's just referring to the tribe of Judah, right? And it's actually a byword that they put on all of the Israelites because they don't want to mention all the names of the Israelites, so they just put a byword. It's like say black people, right? When there's different tribes, you can say, of so-called black people. And so-called black people is such a broad term because Hamites, which don't come from the man of Shem, are also so-called black. So you're also saying that we're Hamites, which we're not. We're Shemites, right? So it says, and the Israelites' Passover was nigh at hand, and many went out of the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. And it says, in the NLT, it says, it was now almost time for the Israelite Passover celebration, and many people from all over the country arrived in Jerusalem several days early so they could go through the purification ceremony before Passover began, right? So in the KJV it says, then sought they for Yahushua and spake among themselves, and they stood in the temple. What think ye, that he will not come to the feast, right? So it was a feast, Passover feast, right? In the NLT it says, they kept looking for Yahushua, but as they stood around in the temple, they said to each other, what do you think? He won't come for Passover, will he? Right? So then go to Matthew. So anyone that's following him with his ideology of growing your long hair but drinking honey wine for the Passover, you're going off. One, you're not partaking in the Passover, and two, you're not under the vow of the Nazarite because you broke it by drinking wine. And I already read it. I already showed it to you, right? I already showed it to you. You're going off, right? You can't have any type of alcoholic beverage, and you can't have any type of wine, right? Period, because it's an alcoholic beverage. It still goes back to that. So if someone's telling you, oh, well, you can drink honey wine. No, you can't. You can't. And to partake in the Passover, you have to have wine from the grape, not wine from the honey, right? So Matthew 26 and 29. Sorry, Matthew 26 and 26. We're going to read to 29. So let me see. Okay, well, I'll read from the NLT. It says, as they were eating, Yahushua took some bread and blessed it. Then he broke it into pieces and gave it to the disciples, saying, take this and eat it, for this is my body. And he took a cup of wine. Right? Now, I think when you click on it, it doesn't say, I don't think it says it was wine from the grape. I believe it said it before, but I think these guys changed it because these guys have been changing things. They've been like taking things out and changing words. Like before, like for Esau, it used to say Ishashua for the definition of Esau, which means wasted away is he, but now it just says hairy, which it wasn't like that before. 5 years ago, it didn't say that. It used to say Ishashua, wasted away is he. Right? So it says cup. No, that's not what I want. Slakia. So it says a cup of wine. So I guess we have to go here. Let's see what it says for this. So they even took a wine out. You see how these guys are moving? You see how these guys are moving? Why isn't wine here? Where is it? Right? So let's go. Let me go check here. Let's see. Let's check it and see what it says here. I know it doesn't say wine there, but these guys are moving funny. You see, this is what I'm talking about, right? This is what I'm talking about. They don't want you to look up information. These guys want you to be completely off. Anyways, so it says and he took a cup of wine. Now it doesn't say whether it was grape, but you can use your brain to put two and two together, right? It says, and gave thanks to Yahweh B'Hashem Yoshai for it. He gave it to them and said, each of you drink from it. Now this is my blood. Well, he said, what type of wine is dark red like blood? Right? Wine from the grape. Right? Wine from the grape. I don't know what honey wine looks like. I've never had honey wine. But I know wine from the grape, right? Which is back then it was wine from the grape that people were having. Sure, were there other type of wines that people could have made? Of course they could have. They could have made honey wine. They could have done all that stuff. But there's no real history on people back then drinking honey wine as like the major and staple wine. It was grape wine, right? But this is what I mean. These type of things, you got to know history. So you got to look things up. But people are too lazy. They want everyone to do the work for them. You don't want to look shit up for yourself, right? But hey, the Spirit is on a man, right? A prophet of the Lord to do a video and bring up information. They're going to do that because, they're working out their own salvation too. And one, they're also teaching themselves, right? They're learning more things as they're doing the lesson, right? Because now these things are sticking in their brain. It's like the whole thing about you read a textbook, you read information, but you got to go apply it. If you don't apply it, it's not going to really stick, right? You got to think and do, right? For things to stick into your brain. And that just goes to neural wiring and neural pathways forming in the brain and in the body, right? Whole thing about muscle memory, right? For athletes, they think about an idea or a move and then they go and act it out over and over again. And then it sticks into their body because of their brain. The brain engraves it with the neural pathways into the body, right? And that's just biology, right? Biochemistry, right? But yeah, so like it doesn't say wine from the grape, but obviously it was wine from the grape, right? It did used to say it, but I'm pretty sure these guys fucking changed it. And they even took out the wine. So you can't even... Anyways. It says... And that's it. I don't need to go in that. That's why he says, for this is my blood. Everything is a representation. So what wine would he use as a representation of his blood? Right? It would be great wine from the grape. Because that's the wine that they were drinking back then. So Deuteronomy. Yeah, this is going to be a long video. But it doesn't really matter. This has to come out. However long it takes. So Deuteronomy. Let's see. It's fucking Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 8. 7. There we go. Deuteronomy 8 and 7. This is why I wanted this. There we go. I read it in the NOT and KJV. It says, and so this is to back up why I say it was wine from the grape and not wine from the honey, right? Which doesn't make any sense, but, right? That they were drinking back then. Because Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai has special things that are seen as precious things. Things of high quality, right? Honey, milk, right? Fertile land, things like that. Lamb, stock, things like that. There's a reason why he lists certain things. So it says Deuteronomy 8 and 7 in the NLT. It says, for the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai, your power is bringing you into a good land. So this is a good land, right? Of flowing streams of pools of water with fountains and springs that gush out into the valleys and hills. It is a land of wheat and barley. So you got your wheat and barley. You can grow your bread and stuff like that. Of grapevines. Why would he list grapevines? Why not cherry vines or whatever other fruit has vines? Why didn't he list those ones? Right? Of grapevines. So grapevines, that tells you that they were drinking wine from the grape. Right? Fig trees and pomegranates of olive and honey, right? Now you could say, oh, that means they're drinking. No, right? Because honey wine wasn't a thing back then. That wasn't something they were drinking. You just go into the history. They weren't drinking honey wine. They're drinking wine from the grape. So the Passover, when it talks about wine, because they don't, you know what, they don't really need to listen because it's just common sense to know that it was wine from the grape. Like if you actually think it's wine from the honey that they were drinking, then you're a fucking idiot because you just don't even understand history. That's just stupid, right? Esau can change only so much things. He can't. There's certain things about history he can't change, right? Because the thing about Esau, he keeps all the history. He'll burn the other stuff, so-called parchments, but have copies or take the original and get rid of the rest or hide it. But then he'll write up his own history, but he'll never throw it away. He'll have it hidden somewhere. He doesn't really necessarily throw it away. He might damage it, so you might not know the full history. But the thing is, he can only damage and hide so much. Remember, here it's like you're trying to say that Esau, so-called white people, can beat Yahweh Shem Shai. They can beat the Most High, as if the Most High doesn't know everything he's doing and everything he's hiding, as if the Most High doesn't control what he does. That's basically the argument you're saying when you try to put out and say that, oh well, history was written by the white man. Right? This was written by the white man. You're basically implying that the white man is superior to Yahweh Shem Shai. As if Yahweh Shem Shai can't have it where the real history, real truth comes out. Even though those so-called white people that you like to use that term are trying to hide things. As if Yahweh Shem Shai doesn't have control over them too. Right? You're really implying that he doesn't have power and control over everything. Right? That's really what you're saying. So you have to really think about shit that you say when people say those stupid things, those ignorant things, right? So back to the point, right? He mentioned good land and the things that come with the good land, and grapevines was part of it, right? Like I said, I don't really need to go and hit that point or hit that nail into the coffin, but if we have to keep hitting, we're gonna keep hitting. So we're gonna go to 1 John. 1 John 15. Like I said, it's gonna be a long video, so if you gotta pause it, come back to it, that's okay. But I implore you, right? That's the correct word. I implore you, Slakia. I implore you to watch the whole video, because especially when it comes to dreadlocks, especially watch the Apostle's video, because it's a shorter video, and if not his video, watch the Apostle Gabar's video. That's on there too. You can see it, and I'll go back to that so you can see. So 1 John, I said 15. Oh, Slakia. It's John 15:4. So John 15:4. So John 15:4, it says in NLT, it says, "Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine. And you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." Right? So you need Yahweh Shai to get access to Yahweh. Without Yahweh Shai, you can't do anything, because Yahweh is the one that allows you to do anything. Right? Through his son, Yahweh Shai. So you can't get to the Father, and the scriptures say that you can't get to the Father but through Yahweh Shai. Right? So that's why we always say Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. We just don't say Yahweh. Right? So let's go to Genesis 40 and 9. Genesis 40 and 9. So I'm reading it KJV. Right? Okay, so I remember why I was reading this. Because anytime, the reason why I was reading this, because anytime you see vine, like even when they use vine in metaphors, that's why I read the precept previously. What was it? Where was it? We were in, was it Deuteronomy? Yeah. When they talked about the land, good land with grapevine and vine, right? Anytime you see vine, it's always referring to grape, grapes. It's not referring to any type of other fruit when it says vine, right? Or grapevine or fruit from the vine, right? It's referring to grapes, right? So anytime you see wine, stuff like that, right? Or wine from the vine or vine, like something like that, it's talking about grapes. So the reason why I was going to say that is because of the Passover, right? We mentioned that before, right? The alcohol, or sorry, the wine that they were drinking was wine from the grape. So Genesis 40 and 9, it says, I'll read it from the KJV then, and NLT. It says, and the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, in my dream, behold, a vine was before me. NLT, so the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream first. In my dream, he said, I saw a grapevine in front of me, right? So it's showing you, when it says vine, it's talking about the grapevine. That's why in NLT it says grapevine. And in the vine, verse 10, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. The vine had 3 branches that began to bud and blossom, and soon it produced clusters of ripe grapes, right? So I'm just using that point to show you what the scriptures say. When they say vine, it's talking about vine from the grape, right? That's why I'm using this analogy or this example. These are just examples to show you when it says that, because they understood. Remember, these are historians, right, that go into research and bring out the information that, okay, as back then during those times, there was grape was a predominant fruit that they had, right? One of the predominant fruits of they had from the vine, especially, and that's what they used for their wine, right? Could there have been honey wine? For sure, but it's not enough to be mentioned, right? It's not enough to be mentioned even in the scriptures, which shows you it wasn't really a thing that they were doing. It was more people drank wine from the grape. You even see in all these other fucking movies, they're drinking wine from the grape. You might see a movie here and there where they might mention honey wine or something, some other type of fruit, right? But it's not really a thing, right? Present day terms now, even now, you don't really hear about people drinking really too much of honey wine. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but that's not a thing that you hear. It's usually wine from the grape. So that's one thing that hasn't changed, right? It hasn't changed. So Genesis, we already read that. We're going to go into Genesis 49. Almost done. Almost done. Genesis 49 and 11. I read the KJV first. It says, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in blood of grapes. It says in MLT, he ties his foal to a grapevine, the coat of his donkey to a choice vine, he washes his clothes in wine, his robes in the blood of grapes. So it just said right there, and this, you know what, this just proves what I'm saying. So he washes his clothes in wine, right? So he just said, and this is a metaphor, right? This is a metaphor. It says he washes his clothes in wine, his robes in the blood of grapes. So the wine, the clothes that he was washing, right? Or I should say the wine that he's washing his clothes in was from the blood of grapes, was from grapes. Because what other wine were they using back then, right? And that's why it also referred to as blood of grapes. Hence why we read it where everyone calls Jesus, but Yahushua was talking about, this is my body, right? And then it says, this is my blood. And it was drinking wine. What wine? Wine that represented blood. What wine represents blood? The wine of grapes, right? Right there. But like I said, you have to have the spiritual eye to see these things. If I say this to you, oh, well, that's a reach. You're just reaching. How am I reaching? How am I reaching? Even when they use a metaphor, right? This is a whole other thing that they're talking about here. But even when they use a metaphor and they're talking about blood, right? They're using grapes. They're using, when they mention wine, they're using wine. It's using the wine of grapes. Grapes is still referred to in the same context, right? It says his ties is full to a grapevine, the coat of his donkey to a choice vine, right? He washes his clothes in wine. His robes in the blood of grapes. So if you see that, if you have a fucking brain, you can see that it's talking about wine from grapes. So that was the only wine they were drinking back then, predominantly, right? Any type of wine they were drinking is not enough to be mentioned. Hence why it wasn't mentioned. Because people might say, "Oh, well, I did the research and I found out." Well, yeah, sure, but that's not a predominant wine that you're drinking, right? If they even were drinking it. So Leviticus, almost done. Leviticus 25 and 5. I read the KJV first. It says, "That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of thy vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land." It says, NLT, "And don't store away the crops that grow on their own, or gather the grapes from the unpruned vines. The land must have a year of complete rest," right? So in their land, like we read earlier, right, about the land that they're going to go to, grapes was a predominant thing. That was a staple, right? Fruit. And grapes has a lot of health benefits. Hence why Yahweh Bashim Yashai had a land that had grapes growing in there, because that's a very healthy, high antioxidant fruit. Just if you know about the science of that fruit, the biology of that fruit, it's very healthy, right? It's very good for you, right? Hence why that was good land. It had wine of the grapes. It had figs. That's another very healthy thing for you to eat. Pomegranates, very healthy thing for you to eat. Milk. Now the milk, it had natural milk from goats. Goat milk is the best milk you can have. It had the honey from bees. Honey. All these things are high. These are all superfoods, what people like to call them, superfoods, right? They all have high, super concentrated health benefits in them, right? Even present day time. Now, obviously, present day time, this place is more polluted, but you can get like it in its natural form. It's very good for you, very good for you. Like in its form when it hasn't been polluted and tainted and corrupted by Esau's fucking science, his Frankenstein science, right? But like I said, I'm just reading this as for example, so you can see when it talks about grapes and vines and wine, blood, what's it referring to? It's all the same thing, right? So where was I? Okay, so we're gonna jump to 11. Actually, I don't need to read that. So we're going to go to Deuteronomy. It's 2 more scriptures. Deuteronomy 32 and 32. It says, KJV, "For their vine is of the vine of Sodom, and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter," right? And this is an analogy. This is a metaphor, right? He's being facetious, right? It says, and see, this is what you keep seeing. There's a common pattern. Anytime they mention grapes and wine or vine, they always mention wine right after, right? It's in the same precept. Why is that? Right? Why is that? Right? Verse 33, it says, "Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps." Why did it mention it like that? Because vine is going to the vine of grapes. And what wine, and what did they use for the grapes? They made wine out of it. Right? Now reading the NLT, it says, "Their vine grows from the vine of Sodom, for the vineyards of Gomorrah. Their grapes are poison, and their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the venom of serpents, the deadly poison of cobras," right? So that's why I'm reading these, just to show you the example. Right? If you're someone who's writing, you're going to use those metaphors, right? To explain something you're trying to explain, you're going to use what makes sense. Right? If you're going to mention blood, you're going to use wine or the blood of grapes. Right? So the blood of grapes is red. Like blood. So Judges 9 and 13. That's odd. going on here? There we go. Judges 9. Why did it do that? That was strange. It was Satan. Oh, here again. Further proving my point. So I'll read in the KJV. It says, and the vine said unto them, should I leave? And this is another analogy. This is another metaphor, right? Right? And the vine said unto them, should I leave my wine? What vine? Right? We're going to go into that. Should I leave my wine, which cheereth Yahweh and man? Oh, so my wine that cheereth Yahweh and man. So it says, and the vine said unto them, should I leave my wine? Right? Should I leave my wine, which cheereth Yahweh and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? And if you read from the context, like if you read this, see, there you go. It says Jotham's in NLT, Jotham's parable. So this is a parable, okay? But why is it that when they use these parables and these metaphors, they're always using vine or grapevine and wine or blood of grapes? Why is it? Oh, why are they always doing that? Why? Use your fucking brain, right? So let's go back here. I read in KJV first again. It says, and the vine said unto them, should I leave my wine, which cheereth Yahweh and man? Why? Right? If you had wine, it cheers you because it's alcoholic drink. You get nice. You feel good. But the vine said that. Why did the vine say that? Right? And go to be promoted over the trees. And now in the NLT it says, but the grapevine also refused, saying, should I quit producing the wine that cheers both Yahweh and people? So there you go. There's the point. So the grapevine produces the wine that they were drinking. Okay? So anytime you see in the scripture says wine is referring to grape. Wine from the grape. Right? That's it on that. This was a little bit longer. But it's important nonetheless. It's just like if you go to school and you watch a class. If you truly want to get more taught or learned in the scriptures, you need to study. And these are lessons. I learned this from the apostles, right? From their videos, right? When I first started, right? Now I took it seriously and I kept on learning. I always looked up what they were talking about because I wanted to learn for myself even more. I really wanted to stick. So you can go and look into Apostle Gabar's video, which it says so many things wrong here. His channel is Edification Exhortation, right? That's his channel. And then you can look at that video, or you can go to Apostle Tahar's video and also see that video there too. This video, right? Well, that's it on that. So back to, right? And I didn't even finish watching this video, but I was watching it and the spirit was just on me to make a video on this because it's important. Because that guy's going off. And when I talk about that guy, I'm talking about High Priest Ahlazar, so-called High Priest Ahlazar, right? Of the Sakari. And whoever's following what he's doing when it comes to that long hair thing, drinking honey wine, you're going off. Because I already showed it to you in the lesson that you can't do that. You can't have any alcohol when you're under the vow of the Nazarite. But you also have to have wine, which is an alcoholic beverage, right? Which is also wine from the grape when you partake in the Passover. So if you're saying, okay, well, I can keep the vow of the Nazarite by having wine. One, you're going off because it's an alcoholic drink. Two, you're not partaking in the Passover because it has to be wine from the grape. So you're a two-time loser, right? You're a two-time loser. One, you're not a Nazarite. Two, you haven't been partaking in the Passover for however long you've been doing that. Anyways, that's it on that. I'd like to close out by saying, Kahala Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and to the whole elect, push his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. I'd like to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and Shalom.